Good morning. I'm Chad Holliday. I'm honored to moderate this panel where we're focusing on Pittsburgh, Birmingham, and Belfast, all three cities who have made a fantastic turnaround, but I think you'll find uniquenesses and commonalities between them. I'm very fortunate I've been able to visit all three cities in the last year, so I have a bit of a firsthand knowledge of what's going on. So what we would like to do in this session is share those perspectives. And then toward the end of the session, we would like to turn to you, the people gathered in this room, and see what did you see as a key similarity, maybe a similarity that the speakers didn't bring out, but you saw it, and what's a uniqueness that perhaps the other cities could learn from, or a fourth or fifth city that's not here could learn from. So be prepared. We'll have a chance for a couple people to respond at the end of the session. So Chris, could you start us off with your perspective on Pittsburgh, but not just Pittsburgh? Well, what does this mean more broadly than just one city?
Terrific, Chad. Thank you. It's an honor to be here today. I want to thank our hosts for convening the conference, and I am really looking forward to learning from my fellow panelists. I serve the staff, the board, and the people of this region as the president of the Heinz Endowments, and we are a multi-generational family philanthropy that got its start with the innovation and the wealth generated by the beginning of the last major economic transition, and we've been deeply part of this region ever since. Our core focus as a charitable foundation is that everyone in this region prospers and belongs, that we have an exemplary, sustainable Pittsburgh and Southwest Pennsylvania. Everyone prospers and belongs. We make grants to the leaders and the doers who are making that happen, about 500 organizations every year and about $100 million every year. Our foundation has been here through the ups and through the downs of the industrial age. And as I sit here today and building on the panels before and the panels that are coming, I think this region is perfectly positioned to help lead into the future where everybody can actually be part of that success. And I want to give you 5 reasons why I believe that, and then one really important underpinning thing that we have to pay attention to make that successful. We are in the middle, we all know this, of this massive transition from the industrial to the post-industrial age. We are a city of bridges, and the way I would say this is we're halfway across that bridge. The eds and meds revolution got us there, but we've got to get to the other half. And what's happening in society right now, you've been across a bridge and in the middle and you're not quite sure where the other side is, and you start to look down, you get vertigo. So it's our responsibility to be clear-eyed and to get to that other side, and this is why I believe Pittsburgh and Southwest Pennsylvania is the center of the universe in getting there. Number 1, politics. If you were here a year ago, you could not walk out your door without running into a presidential candidate or a surrogate or having your way to work blocked because they were going somewhere in our community. What happens in this region is critically important to our nation, number 1. Number 2 is people. This region has not been growing in population for the last 40 years. We already know how important it is that we bring everybody along into a functioning economy. It is a lot simpler when you are attracting talent from other places to figure out how to innovate and how to succeed. We already have had to deal with that constraint, and it is a constraint, by the way, that at least in the U.S. context is coming. Try again? All right. So this is coming for everybody, right? We have declining fertility and population in most places, and it appears that the U.S., at least for the near term, is going to have a much different immigration policy. So this region already has programs in place and models that show how to bring everybody along. That's number 2. Number 3 is this place. We are going to be entering, sadly, into a world that is going to be destabilized by the unnatural disasters from climate change. We see this happening more and more. We are fortunate in our region that we're going to be mostly insulated from that relative to other places in the country, and we already see people who are moving here because of that. Number 4 is our industrial legacy. So, and what I mean by that is what is old is new again. We've gone through a period where people here and the skills that they had were no longer relevant or valued in the economic engine of the past 30 years. But that is changing. Just as the fashion of the 1980s is coming back, the skill sets of the 1980s are coming back, and we know that we have to blend the promise of the sophistication of AI conceptually with making stuff. When we have globalization that is not going to have open borders, you're going to have more reshoring, you're going to have more narrowed and concentrated supply chains, and you're going to have people that know how to make things, and this region has it. Fifth, and finally, is our universities. And our two presidents that spoke today, plus the presidents of other universities and community colleges in this region, have done a really good job thinking of themselves as not just for the students that they have right now, but you heard stories about reaching back into K-12 in order to attract students and bring them forward, to reach lifelong learners after they've been with the university so that they can do more skill set growing in ways that work for them. But this is the one I want to lift up, is that our universities are also reaching more deeply out into our communities. And this is, I think, one of the most important things, that our universities see themselves as central and integrated for everybody to be able to come along. I want to give particular shout out to Carnegie Mellon and for an innovative program that we helped launch called the Center for Shared Prosperity, which was not, let's have our talent go into communities and fix things, but have our talent go in and be in community to hear what those communities see as their primary interests and needs and to co-create the future. Pitt has done the same thing in neighborhoods around Pittsburgh with deep investment and connection with leaders in community so they can figure out how to be in best relation. I think that's really promising. These 5 things are unique to Pittsburgh and to southwestern Pennsylvania, and I believe have us well positioned for that future. And now here's the thing that we have to be smart about. This region generated the wealth of the 21st century. We made the steel, we like to say, that won World War II. We generated innovation and prosperity that had global significance until it didn't. And then the people of our region suffered. They felt like they were discarded. They felt like dignity was taken from them. So we have been through those ups and downs. We know the innovation. Just go to the Heinz History Center if you haven't been here and look at the evolution of glass making. It is extraordinary. But what we also know is that prosperity came at the expense of our natural environment. It's a toxic legacy that has had ongoing public health impacts that we are still cleaning up. And it has come at the expense of too many people that never participated and too many more that were then left out. That is the wisdom that we have in this region. And the opportunity for us right now is to carry that wisdom forward with our unique strengths and with all the panels that are going to come to talk about the innovation economy, and we're going to get to the other side of that bridge. And that's what makes me so excited.
Chris, fantastic. One follow-up question is, I was thinking about what you're saying. Pittsburgh is so fortunate to have a foundation like yours, so active, and the examples you gave make so much sense. What advice would you give to other communities in working with foundations or foundations working with communities?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're really fortunate is that same industrial era that created that wealth also created leaders who cared deeply about giving back in their communities. So the Heinz company in the 1890s offered childcare for their workers. And that belief in giving back has carried forward. And so we're fortunate that we have that philanthropic history here. But communities that are prospering now have a philanthropic presence, so it is there. I think the important thing is that you have to work in collaboration. You've heard this again and again and again on panels, and that collaboration with philanthropy, connected with business, connected with government, connected with universities, and connected with community. I got 5 fingers, I can only count that high. That's the special sauce. And now you actually have to have trusted relationships, understanding mutual benefit, and have hard conversations. And that's what gets you there.
That's great. Ian, Belfast.
On you've heard from Chris applies equally All you've heard from Chris applies equally to Belfast. You could replace steel making with shipbuilding, and you've got exactly the same paradigm, the same problems, the same transitions. The university, therefore, has a key role. We are seen as an anchor institution in Northern Ireland and in the city. And so we've got a great responsibility, not just for education, not just for research, but also for that civic responsibility that drives progressive social change, that drives research, that drives innovation, that drives new products and new companies. We're ranked second in the UK for entrepreneurial impact, which gives you a feeling for the type of university we are. We've got lots of spin-out activity, and only Cambridge beats us in terms of scale. And we have to take that a stage further now because of the problems so well set out by Chris, which, as I said, apply equally well to Belfast. So we've been involved in driving economic change in the Belfast City region, supported by government who could see the economy was in a bad way and wanted to push it harder. So we identified key areas where the university could make a difference. We lined up our research strengths, if you will, with the needs and the opportunities in the local economy. And we came down to three big areas: advanced manufacturing, health research, and in data science applied to key areas like agri-food and to health. So we're building three major innovation centres. All are physically being built at present. They'll be opening within the next 1 to 2 years. And although these are innovation centres, they're not for universities, they're actually for business. Most of our economy is SME based. Many of these companies do not have the expertise or the capacity or the scale to do their own R&D. They don't have their own R&D facility. So the concept is that we can invite them into these innovation centres where they can use top-class kit at the very cutting edge of science, supported by academics who know the business in that area, develop a new product or a new service, go out and take it back to their own factories, launch their product and take it to the next phase. So we've got companies that are small to medium size, but also bigger companies like those in the aerospace industry are involved also because there's some aerospace manufacturing in Belfast. And we can make a real difference doing that. I would stress, however, that we can't do it in isolation. A key component for us is collaboration. You've heard from Chris the importance of collaborating with government, the importance of collaborating with business and industry. But I think we also have to collaborate across geographies. And I'll give you an example. In materials science, we had some important work, but it wasn't really at the cutting edge. But if we linked up with, say, the Advanced Manufacturing Centre outside Sheffield and the National Composite Centre in Bristol, all of a sudden we had a fantastic materials science innovation hub. So I think collaboration is really key. Not just within your region, but across the region to make it an area of strength. And in fact, we've got collaborations with Aston, and you'll hear from Alex shortly, because there are further similarities. So linking up is really important. We heard with our last UK government the importance of levelling up the regions, because the regions could deliver significant economic growth. But in our view, we couldn't do that in isolation. So the regions had to be linked up with cognate areas of strength, because the competition isn't between Belfast and Birmingham. The competition is global, and we can do better in that competition by working together. So that civic responsibility, I think, is right at the very heart of what we're talking about. A responsibility that goes beyond the usual education and research responsibility. And by taking that responsibility seriously, we can make a big difference. And finally, I'd just like to touch on skills. We don't have enough people coming through our system to meet the needs of our economy. So we're not going to get that through traditional students leaving high school and coming to university. We have to think about how we broaden that pipeline, take students in through the college system, take adult learners in who want to reskill or upskill, deliver university courses in more flexible ways to meet people's needs with caring responsibilities, for example. So we have to really open that skills pipeline, or we'll have a problem and the economy will stall, not because we don't have the facilities or the ideas, but because we don't have the people. I'll pause there, Chad, and happy to pass on.
Well, that was great. Just maybe building on your last point about how you bring in people from other sources. Is there more advice to other groups that might care about the same subject?
There's a number of ways to do this. One is to have very good articulations with colleges. I guess over here it would be with community colleges. So students who perhaps couldn't get to a good university in one step might do it in two steps by going to college first and then moving into university. To make that easier, you can arrange articulations between the college course and the university course. So we have an articulation in computer science with our regional college, and if you do well in your computer science course in that regional college, you can go straight into the second year of our computer science course at university. So if we arrange these articulations, we can get a better system between what we would call further education and higher education, and therefore open that, the funnel, if you will, a bit wider for people coming in to university. The reskilling and upskilling piece is also really important. During COVID, we lost a lot of jobs because people were furloughed or the industry they were doing died out very quickly. And government asked us to create some courses that could give us short-term gain. And we did that within a matter of weeks. We put on a number of courses that last 6 months that could take people who had been displaced into another area like software engineering or supply chain management. And after 6 months, they were capable of getting into an entry-level job in a completely different area. So I think we've got a responsibility to deliver initiatives like that. So that reflects the upskilling, the reskilling, widening the funnel, and finally, I think it's really important to support people through widening participation who might not otherwise be able to come to university. They've got the ability, but they don't have the support. Aston have got a very strong record here. We have 32% of our local students come from very low-income households. By giving them additional support through philanthropy and by dropping the grades that they're admitted with by 2 points, we can bring people into the university who wouldn't normally have come. And the interesting part is that with that support, they do better. They have a lower dropout rate and a higher number of first-class honours degrees and 2-1 honours degrees than your middle-class students coming to the same university. So these students are hungry, they can deliver, and they're worth having in your economy.
Oh, that's fantastic. Very encouraging. Alex, Birmingham.
Not working? We may all share the same one. There we go. This one is working. Just listening to my colleagues, I really find this tale of the three cities of Birmingham, Belfast and Pittsburgh fascinating to me, because it's the tale of industrial revolutions. Like my colleagues, I work and lead a university in the city of Birmingham in UK, which was one of the birthplaces of the first industrial revolution. You know, that's where James Watt developed his steam machine. That's where Matthew Boulton developed the first integrated manufacturing plant to build the steam machines. And that's where the power for modern manufacturing and transport via steam machines came from. It was a golden era. It was the manufacturing powerhouse of the world. All rail tracks in India, the Great Indian Railway, were built and brought from Birmingham. Every pen in the world included metal parts produced in Birmingham. Every nail that came around the world came from Birmingham. It was a fascinating time. You know, you go back into the past and you think about it and you think what these people have done. And pay it forward today after a couple of decades of post-industrial pain where cities, all three cities, struggle to find their purpose and their role in the new technology world, with pain on the community and the societies. They are, again, in this fourth industrial revolution, rediscovering themselves, rediscovering their purpose with new technologies. In Birmingham, Land Rover and Jaguar are now producing electric vehicles. We are exporting new drugs and new vaccines. Outside of Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, Golden Triangle, Birmingham is now the biggest life sciences centre in UK. And it's fascinating. But what's also different is the demographic of the city is starkly different than what it was centuries ago when we had the first industrial revolution. It's now the youngest, or one of the youngest cities in Europe, with around 40% of population younger than 25 years of age.
It's a city of 187 nationalities. All that youthfulness and that diversity is now contributing to creating a very dynamic, very vibrant innovation ecosystem. So the universities are starting to play, again, a profound role, maybe even more profound than what has happened in the past ever before. Because at the moment, the universities in our city and region are really shaping that dynamic and creating, in a way, the innovation ecosystems in partnerships with industry, business, government. We like to call that the quadruple helix model of innovation, where universities, public, private sector, and community come together to co-create, co-develop, and to drive inclusive growth and socioeconomic transformation. There are many ingredients to this happening, but part of that is also a very strategic approach of co-location, not just bringing industry and business on campus, creating accelerators and incubators on campus, but also taking the university into the city center, creating an open door, the front door to the university, making it easy to engage, creating alumni clubs, business hubs, enterprise hubs within the city center, so that basically the boundaries between university and society and the civic environment are blurred, making it easy to engage, making it almost kind of seamless to work across the various sectors and domains. That's where we're putting a lot of effort, and together what has worked in our advantage is that as we are creating the Birmingham Innovation Precinct, that has now also become the new West Midlands node of the West Midlands UK investment zone to provide incentives for investment, incentives for co-location, for built environment, and so on. So now, today, Birmingham has again found its mojo. Outside of London, it is the second place with the highest foreign direct investment and the second place for the highest number of startups. But they also have to be the right startups, and they also need to scale up. And that's where we're putting a lot of effort right now.
That's just amazing. You talked about the open door to the city, and your office is actually in the city. Why'd you do that, and what difference does it make?
So when I came about 4 years ago to Birmingham and to Aston University after 35 years in Australia, in Melbourne, I found that my office and my colleagues and PVCs, the Chancellery, the business development, were all hidden in a building on a campus. And when you speak to the stakeholders, industry and business, one of the biggest complaints that I had is, they don't know which door to open, they don't know where to knock. They find universities complex beasts, they find universities, academics and various researchers all fighting for their attention and confusing the market and confusing the ecosystem. And also, as I've heard from my colleagues, it was serendipitous that at that time we had a very creative and dynamic mayor who came on board and said, Alex, if you help me with the regeneration of the city, I'll put some money forward. And he put some real money. He put the money where his mouth is. He put 20 million forward to help me match that and bring our presence into the city center. So very quickly upon my arrival, I think it was about 18 months, we've opened and completely redeveloped this old citadel, the old historian building. By the way, the building where Mahatma Gandhi, when he visited for the first time UK in Birmingham, had his dinner. I never failed to mention that to our alumni of Indian diaspora. And basically completely redeveloped that into our headquarters in the city center. So the ground floor is the alumni club. All of our alumni from anywhere around the world or city or London can come there anytime. Have meetings, coffee, breakfasts, biscuits, chat with us, and it's open doors. That's their club. The enterprise hub is there, the business hub. We are with our concierge that meets any business partner or potential business partner and navigates our complexities of the universities for them, rather than expecting them to do that. The Chancellery, my office is there, and we are easy to find. So we call it the front door to Aston.
That's great. Teresa, bring us back to Pittsburgh. And from your perspective, leading research at Carnegie Mellon, how does all this fit together for you?
Well, okay. Let's see, we're playing that. Okay, well, first I'd just like to thank the hosts for all the work that you've done to organize this great event. It's already been a great morning. We look forward to another exciting afternoon. It's really my pleasure to be here, and I think we can say repetition is good. So maybe I will take this and riff off some of the things that Chris covered, and begin by really taking a step back and looking at this place-based industrial strategy. And when I joined Carnegie Mellon and I was learning about Pittsburgh, after having spent 23 years down the road in State College, Pennsylvania, I ran across a Brookings report, and the Brookings report did a study that looked at the market share of the innovation economy across the U.S. And the premise was that the value of economies increased when digital tech and innovation economies began to dominate. And perhaps then it's not surprising that the 5 cities that took 90% of the market share were Boston, San Francisco, San Jose, Seattle, and San Diego. So what do all of those have in common? They're all on the coasts of the US. So now if you look in the center of the country, and Pittsburgh is considered to be the eastern part of the Midwest, I was at least excited to learn that Pittsburgh was among 5 cities that was seeing a substantial growth in this digital and technology innovation economy. And as we've heard, Pittsburgh kind of hit rock bottom in the 1980s and then has gone through a renaissance that has led to this. So we've heard about ingredients, and just to reiterate, what are some of the ingredients? And this has been written about. There have been many articles about Pittsburgh. The anchor global leading research universities. You need the talent, you need the ideas, and you need the translation. Another really critical part that was highlighted is the government sector, and it's all aspects. It's the local, the regional, the state, and the federal all coming together and rowing in the same direction. And then having very supportive industry leaders. We've heard about the critical role that philanthropy and foundations have played in the renaissance of Pittsburgh, taking the long view. And we're here to talk about health. And here in Pittsburgh, we have 2 very large health systems, UPMC and Highmark Health. Those ingredients are central, but a gourmet dish requires you to bring those ingredients together in very special ways. And so I came to Pittsburgh 2.5 years ago to join Carnegie Mellon. Prior to that, I spent years again at Penn State, at Virginia Tech, where I spent a lot of time working in the DC area in Northern Virginia, and then at Purdue in West Lafayette, Indiana, looking at these interfaces and thinking about place-based industrial strategy and the role of universities. And when I came, I said, what is different about Pittsburgh? And what has been Carnegie Mellon's role? And I think the same is true of University of Pittsburgh. Well, at Carnegie Mellon, we dare to do big things that nobody else has done before. And I'm just going to give you a few examples. Our Robotics Institute is the largest academic department in the university. It includes, we dared to be different by setting up a highly applied translational arm. Now it has over 150 full-time researchers that are really focused on translation. So we like to say, we're driving at the bleeding edge of foundational work, but we don't leave the implementation to others. And that was so true during the DARPA challenge that launched the autonomous vehicle industry. Today, in one of our neighborhoods, one of 90 neighborhoods, we have over 150 robotic startups. There was a month in the summer of last year where the total investment in robotic startups in Pittsburgh exceeded the investment of the rest of the world altogether. So this is the power of thinking about what's different in terms of ensuring that we have those translational pipelines. Now, just briefly, thinking to the future, we really need to meet the urgency of the moment today. We're seeing AI grow at unprecedented, accelerating the pace of innovation in an unprecedented way. We have a very different national and global geopolitical environment. And for the U.S., the federal basic research investment is under threat. And so all of these mean that we cannot be complacent if we think to the future. So once again, thinking about Pittsburgh looking into the future under this unprecedented time of change, arguably, we are incredibly well positioned. Once again, we have the technology. We've shown that. We have a deep tradition in manufacturing. And very importantly, once again, we have incredible natural resources in this region. The energy and the water, which are going to be critical if we're thinking about, again, once again, growing the base of manufacturing in the U.S. I'll just leave you with the fact that Senator McCormick, who you've heard about last night, hosted a major AI and energy summit here in July. It brought together over 40 CEOs, 5 cabinet secretaries, and the President of the U.S., really to focus on thinking about the role Pennsylvania and southwestern Pennsylvania can play to meet the urgency of the moment, announcing over $90 billion in investment. So I would say the future is bright, building on the past, and now we really need to move forward to execute on that future.
Oh, that's very encouraging. If I could take you back to the summit you were talking about. So having the president there at campus, what did that do to the spirit on the campus?
Well, I would say, of course, it's a very complex time. It was really, we had 40 CEOs from around the world, global leaders, cabinet secretaries. It was about the entire integrated environment. And our campus understood that the spotlight was on us, okay? And it was our moment for the region. Just think about the focus. We oftentimes say that I think we're humble Midwesterners. We don't necessarily boast about the success. And to bring that spotlight onto Pittsburgh, really, and the intense and critical investment that was being made really helped, I think, Pittsburgh and the region and Pennsylvania more broadly shine in the eyes of the world.
Very helpful. Thank you so much. Let's take just 2 minutes to get everybody in the room involved, if you'd like to be. If you have a short observation of what you've heard today, or you have a question you'd like somebody to respond to, raise your hand, we'll get a microphone to you. I can't, it's dark out there, and I can't see if any hands are up. Chad Evans, what's your question?
So can you talk and maybe share a little bit about some of the challenges
Thank you for asking that question because, you know, I think more so I was just having a conversation earlier today with one of the other panelists about the fact that now more so than ever, as we think about within the U.S. historically, research has been broken into almost like a serial 6-1, 6-2, 6-3, a very linear process. But as we think about, particularly now with the accelerating pace of innovation with AI, that serial process really is now, I think, really going to go out the window. And as we think about, again, that secret sauce, it's made, I think, our basic research stronger because when you're understanding what are some of the big needs, what are some of the big problems, and you understand the mission space, that oftentimes as you are doing that work, you identify these core questions, these very fundamental questions. And what we found is the ability to seamlessly move between these is really very powerful. It means that we're doing basic research that is really at the forefront. Again, that also means that there's a very, very important place for discovery-based research. So I like to think of it as a yes and, not an either or. But increasingly, I think it's going to be important where we have cross-functional, truly interdisciplinary teams that are working across that range, working not just within institutions, but with our partners to understand what are those critical needs. Industry, increasingly, we're hearing over and over again in the U.S., industry has us covered. We don't need university research anymore. Think again, we just need to embrace what everybody can bring to the table.
Panel, anything to add? It's very complete. Is there another question or observation from the audience? Deborah, I see you out there, and you usually always have a great observation. Could I put you on the spot?
Well, it's a great discussion, and it was so exciting last year in Belfast and Birmingham, where we made this connection with Pittsburgh as the bridge to our meeting and the commonality. But I think what I would ask our colleagues from the UK, where do you think in the next few years you're going to see your respective cities? Because the energy there and the change, you feel it. And you really have gotten everybody on board, as it were. And I think even 5-6 years ago, there was a feeling of, well, we're in the past, we're struggling. But that's not true anymore. So what was that magic? Leadership?
Okay, I'll start and I'll hand over to my colleague Ian. Great question, Deborah. I've mentioned that momentum that is being driven by that youthfulness and that diversity, but leadership is the key. Leadership is the key ingredient, and obviously attracting the right investment into the right foci areas. Where are we heading? I can see this momentum really driving significant technological innovation. And in fact, the Birmingham Innovation Precinct is unashamedly focused on technology innovation, but in a very place-based way, if I might say, and that's why place-based innovation is so critical. How do you drive innovation that is quintessentially augmented by the environment you live in? When I mentioned that it's the super diverse city with 187 or so nationalities, the genomics research, applied genomics research, is evolving rapidly in Birmingham and the region, and not in its own kind of a contained way, but connecting genomics to bioinformatics, to AI, and you get this magic platform that drives bespoke, personalized pharmaceutical solution development and new drug development. It is already becoming one of the clinical trial centers of UK because of that diversity of population. What I'm seeing is that that Birmingham and the West Midlands area, moving away from the traditional, historically manufacturing powerhouse into the life sciences and pharmacological powerhouse, I think that this is becoming real.
Ian,
undoubtedly leadership is very important, but not just leadership in the university, but across the key elements in the city, in the whole city region. And also alignment. Picking up Teresa's point, I agree with her entirely about the role of translation. So you have to make the translation that you're doing line up with the needs and the opportunities and the skills in that economy. And when you do that, there's a sweet spot. I think we're poised on a springboard for success. We should attract inward investment, attract companies in key areas. The risk for us is that we might run out of skills, and so addressing the skills in parallel becomes very, very important to make sure that we are successful.
very helpful. Thank you for the question, Deborah. We have time to go around to each panel member one more time to make a key point that you would like to make, to add, that builds on the entire conversation. And we haven't talked quite as much about social inclusion. So if there's anything that relates to social inclusion, you could add in your remark. Chris, could you start us off?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. You just had a panel on the Bioforge, and I apologize if I repeat something in this mix. But one of the things that we're proudest of our part in this partnership with the philanthropies in the universities and in the community in Hazelwood, is to make sure that as that steel mill is reconstructed so that it generates economic prosperity for the future, that the neighborhood is not squeezed out and left behind. So we've been working with the neighborhood for years now to assure that members of that community actually will still have affordable housing, or if they decide to move, they are the ones that get the benefit of the increase in that housing price in Hazelwood. This is critical. We cannot keep in our communities regentrifying one place at the expense of another and moving our poor people around. That's not being in right relation. And so we think a critical part of this is not just the workforce, but is also housing. Housing is crucial so much, both because of the rent and the cost of it, and because it's intergenerational transfer of wealth. And we think this is a model that other industrial cities are using in this part of the country, and one that needs to be expanded.
Well, that's a great example, and that's alive today, right? This right.
I would echo that. We also try and make our innovations inclusive, citing them in areas where there is significant problems, whether it's housing or jobs, and we try and make sure that there are jobs and housing and a better environment for people so that they feel part of that development, part of that rebirth, and also lift them up because they've got significant challenges, and if they see developments that inspire them, then they can do better and lift themselves out of some of the problems that they face. So for me, inclusive innovation is absolutely critical.
Teresa?
So we haven't talked very much about the intersection of AI and biomedical work. So I'm going to provide a very specific example and touch on the point that you made. We're, again, facing a revolution right now in the way that we conduct scientific research and translation. And this is a big national priority. It's been an area where Carnegie Mellon, together with the University of Pittsburgh, have made significant investments to establish a so-called AI-enabled lab in the loop. This is where we have large-scale experimental facilities that are fully automated to collect every piece of information about the data and metadata that is created, where you can use robots to control those workflows. Well, if we think about that, that sounds very futuristic, but if we think about the workforce needs, we have to tap every part of the sector in terms of being able to support the labs, being able to support the data, and so on. And so we are partnering. This is not just about university-based talent. We're partnering with community and technical colleges. We're deploying these capabilities and resources in high schools. So it's a very, very critical part of ensuring that as we are advancing new technologies and AI, that we're not leaving the community behind. And one just interesting fun fact, we were talking to a leader from Pennsylvania Economic Development, and she indicated that if you look at high school students and students in technical colleges, they don't want to be working in old school manufacturing facilities. They want to be working in these bleeding edge, cutting edge facilities. And so I think, again, it's also meeting students in the moment that they're in as well.
Very helpful. Alex?
I might also just end with two examples, very specific examples at Aston, how social inclusion is at the front and center of our strategy. Our health and medical research that is quite translational, quite applied, is leading to us opening end of next year, latest January 2026, the Integrated Healthcare Hub, Aston Integrated Healthcare Hub. That Aston Integrated Healthcare Hub, with all the underpinning research, because it's also a translational center, will be open and providing free healthcare to all the schools, the children in the most deprived areas of Birmingham. There is a saying in Birmingham, in those areas, that your life expectancy is not defined by your genomic code, but actually by your postcode. So that's the postcodes we are addressing with that. The second one is we are now confirmed to be the first campus in UK to reach net zero carbon emissions in 2028. And keep in mind that we are in the city center. So what we're doing is we're developing a solution through our research and development that is going to provide net zero emissions district heating to the whole precinct, the Birmingham Innovation Precinct. So therefore, that whole precinct will be net zero carbon emissions. I think we're doing our bit.
Two great examples to end on. Please give our panel a big round of applause.